Is it record? I think it's recording now. Hold on, let me make sure it is. Yeah. Yes. It's recording. Episode 159, 11:12 a.m., August 13th, 2020. How do is it Eli? Will Eli? Ely. I was trying to figure out how to say it, and I was like, I'm going to butcher it. But why don't you introduce yourself real quick, man?
Yeah, so I was a active duty Army EOD tech for right around 10 years. I got out in 2018 and did a 14-month stint with Mines Advisory Group, which was one of the two main humanitarian nonprofits that are doing demining work around the world.
Okay.
MAG does work in about 25 countries. And I was working in northern Iraq, helping mostly the Kurds and the Yazidis.
Yeah.
Now I'm, due to some personal life changes, I moved away from that field and I'm doing some other stuff that's not as interesting. But you asked me to come on here today to talk about the explosion that happened in Lebanon about 10 days ago.
Yeah, that in general, that each one on your screen just went all fuzzy. I can still, there you go. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I had on a guy on yesterday, Joe Tedeye. He's a former Green Beret, and I was just listening to his book the other day after I talked to you. And in his book, he's just going through his life, and he's talking about studying for like some investor test in Las Vegas after the military because he wanted to go trade stock, but talks about this huge explosion, and he's explaining it, and I was like, what is he talking about? Because he said it sounded like a nuke, and I was like, what? And it was the PetCon explosion. And he was in Vegas for that. They said drop the roof of the testing center there, and all the tiles and shit came down. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I meant to look it up yesterday after he and I spoke. What was the yield of, because the Beirut one, that was bigger than the Tianjin explosion, right? Was it?
Yeah. So I think they're calling Beirut right around 1 kiloton. And normally in explosives, we use TNT equivalent.
Yeah.
As kind of our unit of measure.
Yeah.
So they say it was about 2,000 tons of ammonium nitrate, I think like 2,300 tons. But that calculates to about 50% yield, 50% by weight to TNT.
Sure.
So you get down to about 1,000 tons, 1 kiloton.
So 1/15 of the Hiroshima bomb.
Yeah. Which is a tiny size of what a modern nuke would be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think it was Truman that said he was, once we started they called, I don't know if you knew this, they called you got to interrupt me because I interrupt like a motherfucker. You just got to come in, punch it. Tommy, shut up, I'm talking. It's a free-for-all. I think it was Truman that said their plan, I didn't know this, the top secret plan for the H-bomb, under, I guess, Teller and Ulam and all those guys, they called it Campbell. Because Campbell as in soup as in super bomb. So they called it Campbell. But when they were telling Truman about it, and then Truman went on to like bluff, he was like, if the Soviets want to do whatever, he's like, we'll drop some of our A-bombs on them. He goes, and not the old ones, not those little firecrackers. And it was like, everyone was like, what do you mean those little firecrackers? Not knowing that we were getting ready to test some megatons. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there was one live test before Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And since then, I think there was just Trinity, which was the first. And then Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And since then, there have been hundreds of tests by many countries.
Yeah.
So the development that's happened since then, it's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were kind of like us taking the second ever built automobile and running them in a race,
Let her rip.
And then, but then never, like, we haven't really shown in public what that development has been.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of assumptions that going from where we were in the 40s to where we are now, there's a huge development. And it's probably a pretty good, assumption.
Yeah.
And there was a big leap in that when you switched to the hydrogen bombs,
Yeah.
fusion fission bombs, and that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And we're still in, and I'm still talking in like Wikipedia available stuff there.
Oh yeah, not even like I heard the government. Like no, like yeah, you're right. There's really not really a big public, I guess, knowledge. I mean, you can go onto YouTube, and my favorite one is just type in Castle Bravo. It's the 15 megaton. It's, I mean, it was shot in 52, but the thing looks like a 4K video. I think it's been remastered, but
yeah,
it's.
I mean, and that's one of the nice things about film is if you have the film, you can basically up it to 4K for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so but the like moving on, like rolling back to Lebanon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, rolling back to Lebanon. When you said you wanted to talk about this stuff, I kind of pulled up some of the conspiracy theories because that always happens.
They're so great.
And
they're so great.
RT News, they're one of their only articles about the blast was an article about a reporter saying that it was definitely a nuke and giving it credence. But then you look at who the reporter is, and he's like a sports journalist that follows, like he's an NBA journalist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it is. We are in the battle of just fake information warfare.
Yeah. But yeah, so, Lebanon was a massive failure in explosive storage. At the end of the day is what it is. There have been other accidents like that. In Texas, two big ones in Texas, like one in the 40s that was really close to the same size as this, when a ship exploded. And then back in 2013, there was a smaller explosion at a ammonium nitrate plant in Texas that was made a ton of noise. And then there was another one in China a few years ago. So I mean, so this isn't something that is super rare, but it seems like every time it happens, the news treats it as if it's the first time.
Yeah. End of the world. Terrorist ? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't help kind of,
when fucking
the current political climate does not help the situation.
Yeah, it doesn't help when, and I'm not even going there. I try to keep this. I mean, I try to keep it apolitical, but then I'll have on guys from Delta Force, and it just gets getting crazy. But like, yeah, it doesn't help. Like a week ago, Trump was like, I think it looked like a intentional. It's just like,
yeah,
that guy lives to just rattle the pot. But yeah, I always love the conspiracy theories. My favorite one about the Tianjin explosion is, and I love conspiracy theories, and this is how I always explain it, is, like, fiction is good, right? Like a good Harry Potter, a good Lord of the Rings. Great. You get lost in it. I'm playing Far Cry 5 right now. You get lost in it. It's great. Reality is stranger than fiction, and then conspiracies are just spruced up reality, spiced up reality. So I just look at it as like really good, like lore. My favorite one about the Tianjin explosion is that it was one of the rods from God, and it's because it was the day after China did like their biggest devaluation of U.S. currency, and it was the same city where China has the world's fastest supercomputer.
Okay. I mean, do they still have? They still claim the world fastest?
Actually, they still do, but this was a last generation. We go back and forth, but and to believe these, you got to ignore a lot of loopholes and make connections that probably don't exist. But like I said, it's a fun rabbit hole for fun. But
I get frustrated with some of it.
They're stupid as shit.
I hired a handyman to work on my house while I was overseas, and I was kind of like interviewing him.
Yeah.
And he decides to spend 20 minutes talking about 9/11.
Oh God.
and how it was definitely an inside job and nobody died.
Oh God.
And it was to the point where like I had to tell him to shut up. And I was like, why are we talking about this?
Why are you even saying
Yeah.
It's
And then I ended up like, he obviously didn't get any work out of me.
Yeah, it's like, dude, that's just like a litmus test for like you're not how even keeled are you? I don't want you in my home when I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's they're definitely frustrating if people take them as truth. But if you want to just dip your toes in like a video game, they're fun.
Yeah, it can definitely be entertaining and it's interesting to think about.
Sure.
And but yeah, just people that want to argue the truth of it.
Yeah.
And it's
Open your
just,
eyes, man. Open your eyes. All right, shill. It's like, dude, what? You know how many times I've been called a shill? Like, it's I've noticed because I've had on like Delta Force guys, I've had on military guys. I've to the point where like I've been accused in the comments of one of these that like I'm working with the Air Force and that this is a sort of like a covert recruiting wing of the Air Force. Me,
I mean,
like I don't know what I'm doing. This podcast, I'm like tripping through it. Like I'm making it up as I go, and I'm like, oh, okay. From the outside, it's like, who's this guy with the American flag talking about the military? He's got to be a U.S. asset. And then I'm like, oh, so if I get painted as one, and then I'm sitting here like, what? I'm like, okay, that's most people painted in conspiracies are probably like, what? Like I'm just a dude. Like, yeah.
And it's and so something to throw out if any of my peers come across this podcast. I am not reporting to be the authority here, and mostly I was just interested to talk to you because when I see guys talk about this stuff, I always get annoyed by little things, and I was like, I might as well put my money where my mouth is.
I'm gonna go set the record.
Yeah, I mean, but like I'm gonna make the same mistakes other guys would make. Like little things that I would get annoyed at when I was listening to it. And I was like, instead of like just whining about everybody that, comes up and does one of these, I might as well just do it myself.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I listen back to my podcast all the time and I'll be like listening to it and I'll be like, oh my God, how did I get that? Like things that I know are true. I'll like misquote stuff. And it's almost like, when you send a long text and then you send it and then you read it and you're like, how did I miss that typo? I listen to past episodes and I'm like, how did I get that wrong? Like I said something so clearly. So there's definitely something. Yeah, it's you do an episode and then you look back and it is kind of weird. Although it's not, I uploaded immediately after, but in a sense it is live because it's just happening and you butcher shit. But yeah, no, dude, there's no purpose to this podcast. There's no, there's no like, let's talk about the conspiracy. I just find interesting shit. And I'm like, let's go with that. So how was this different than so like Tianjin, that one looked Tianjin, I don't know how to say it. That one looked more, for lack of a scientific word, that one looked more almost like a giant flamethrower. It was just like thick, red, bright, just kind of almost like coming from the bowels of the earth. PepCon looked almost like a scaled up, I don't know, it almost looks like when they set off it almost looks like a mine, like a slow motion, like the thing almost like Hurt Locker. And then Beirut had like a shitty like B movie nuke scene look to it. Why are they all different?
So one of the things you probably saw with so what the main difference is what is actually exploding and what the mix is of different fuels and oxidizers.
Okay.
And then where it's happening. So you'll see the big like water vapor kind of ring in Lebanon, and if you look at like old nuke tests, you get almost the same kind of, or really any on the water explosion, you get that. And then Tianjin, I'm not super up on that one. That one was that ammonium nitrate also?
I don't remember. I know it was like 3 or 4 successive ones, and they just
Yeah.
kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's all what chemical reaction is happening.
Okay.
And then is it fuel rich? Is it oxygen rich? Big fireballs you get in kind of like if it's especially in around petroleum, you'll get that kind of fireball. Imagine like a oil well on fire.
Mm-hmm.
You get that, lots of flame.
Yeah.
And obviously, and what happened in Lebanon was really oxygen rich, because you had, what looks like what happened there was a customs warehouse that had been holding on to this, confiscated. I don't even know if that's technically the right word. I think they were just holding it because of the ship broke down in the port. But that's been there since like 2013. And if you think about it in the eyes of the customs guys that are dealing with storing this stuff, they later on get a bunch of, probably bootleg fireworks that weren't supposed to be coming through.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, where should we put this? Oh, put it in that warehouse where we have the ammonium nitrate.
Just throw it out the contraband. Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the guys storing that stuff probably aren't, trained up on explosive compatibility, which is a big issue. You want to keep types of explosives together,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to combine really sensitive stuff with really insensitive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more insensitive it is, you want to store it more carefully because it's more sensitive, obviously.
Sure.
And fireworks are one of the biggest causes of accidents. So it looks like there was a fire at the port, and the fire caught the fireworks, and the fireworks all went, and the ammonium nitrate went. And it's almost textbook.
Yeah.
It's like the kind of accident you imagine when you're teaching somebody about accidents.
Yeah. Very like almost a perfect storm of accidents. It's like it's simple enough that it exists as a lesson.
Yeah. And in explosives, we talk about the explosive train. So like everything from a hand grenade to a aircraft bomb, you're dealing with an explosive train of some kind. Often it's simple, but what I'm talking about is like a fuse. The igniter on a hand grenade ignites the time delay detonator, which slowly burns and hits the primary explosive, which then ignites the secondary explosive, and that's the explosive train. Which is almost the same thing you had here, where you had a fire, which ignited the fireworks, which ignited the ammonium nitrate. It's very, it makes so much sense when you hear the story. It makes it frustrating for me looking at it to see these, oh, we probably dropped a bomb.
Yeah.
And it's like, so we waited till there was a fire, and then the fireworks went off to drop a bomb on the port?
Open your eyes, Will. Open sheeple. Open your eye. It was a diversion. Yeah. Set that off to
it's when something can be more easily explained by stupidity and laziness.
Yeah,
that's usually the answer.
What's that theorem? It's not Occam's razor. There's one where is it
and I can't remember it either, but I always I think it's always stupidity, but I always throw in laziness. I think the actual phrase just uses stupidity, but I think laziness is another big one.
Yeah, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to stupidity.
Yeah,
it's
I think that's
I can't remember the name of it, but it's
Yeah.
Not always who's the evil puppeteer. might just be some stupid people and some lazy people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, maybe, maybe some government knew all that stuff was stored there and started the fire. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's something that would be really hard to figure out, especially after everything was scraped clean by the giant 1 kiloton blast. Not a lot of evidence left.
Yeah. Make the bomb big enough and there won't be any evidence. But even then it's okay. Let's go on that. Let's just say, all right, governments do nefarious stuff. Why would they would just create a car bomb though? I mean, that's you could just say, hey, that was Islamic terrorism. That wasn't that's more believable than anything.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's like some ship that was at port that needed that, like some other government wanted to get destroyed. And but that's so much planning. Okay, so they're going to drop a bomb on this thick pile of ammonium nitrate and hope it destroys the whatever.
And the whole world will see.
Why not drop a bomb on the thing you want to drop a bomb on?
Yeah, it's and the whole world is going to see it. The video is going to go viral.
Yeah,
it gets
like so overcomplicated for what it is, which is a terrible disaster.
Yeah,
but something that is not uncommon.
Yeah, it's there's definitely something about you just want to connect the dots in a way that it's seeing a constellation when in reality it's just stars, but you're creating, oh, there's the Big Dipper. It's just stars. It's who did this, and it's like, man, it was just a bunch of fucking explosives in a place where it probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
That's it.
And there's nothing wrong with looking for patterns in the stars.
Sure.
Just don't sacrifice people to the gods you see up there.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with coming up with myths. Just don't go full Aztec. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
As long as you're not cutting open babies by the millions, that's fine.
Yeah.
Santa Claus, no one gets hurt with the public, the mass delusion of Santa's real. No one gets hurt. But once you start having to, sacrifice the blood of a newborn, it's like, oh, pump the brakes, bud. Reel it back.
Yeah.
But it definitely, that was definitely one of the, I saw that, and that was one of it doesn't happen frequently, that it's like audibly and unintentionally, I was like, whoa, like that, the vapor cloud, because the first video, I didn't see the boat view for a while. I just kept seeing the first ones. And you don't really see the mushroom cloud. You just see the expanding dome of vapor. And it's kind of like layering in front of each other as it comes out and blows out all the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. It's huge. Yeah. Definitely bigger than any one that I've been present for. I think the largest that I was involved in was like 15,000 pounds NEW, and that was something like this. That wasn't like a terrorist bomb that we were destroying. It was a old U.S. Ammo supply point in Afghanistan that flooded because when they were building this ammo supply point, nobody was like, well, what happens if it rains? They're like, oh, we don't have to worry about that. It's Afghanistan. Except it rains 3 months a year.
Hey, man, building up. Well, why build one when you can build two at twice the cost? It's Don't worry about that.
So after it was like everything was damaged with water, we had to destroy it. And the easiest way to do that is to put it in a big pile.
Put it South Park. Get back in the pile. It's but yeah, it's weird though that now, is this just cherry picking? It's weird though that you got this one in Lebanon, and it's like seemingly, it almost looks like Panama City. It's like right there on the beach, nice place. Why is this all there? Tianjin, it's Poppin City, almost looks like a mini Hong Kong. Why is this all right there? And then Pentagon, and obviously I'm picking select ones. You could paint any image you want to with the data. Pentagon, it looks like it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. And that's not to say us Americans store our bomb or explosives better, but at one point you kind of look at it and you're like, why is all of this shit? Now, like you said, was it seized? Was it just, it was put there like, hey, almost like the TSA taking your laptop or something,
Yeah.
versus Pentagon was a manufacturing plant for rocket fuel. And so from the get-go, it was like, let's put this out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, and that's kind of what it is. So think about it like this warehouse was probably like the equivalent of TSA's trash can they make you dump your water in.
yeah.
Right? But they never emptied it.
Because normally it's just water and like fucking pins and needles and shit.
Yeah. And
Not
so it's, you know, and at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know, messed up government, you know, because in our system, we're a little bit better at accountability. And yes, they ended up their prime minister and his cabinet resigned. But in that system, all that means is he's going to go back to being a member of parliament. You know, and and that's more than I expected. I thought they'd find some, mid-level guy who'd been promoted above the level that his like family ties really justified.
Yeah.
He didn't have the protection of a strong family.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, it's that guy's fault.
Why didn't they choose someone that was vaporized? That's the way to go. You choose someone.
Yeah.
It was his fault. It was,
I think the protests and the size of the protests that came in afterwards had a big effect on that.
I don't know.
I think it was, there've been big protests in Beirut since. Because and at the end of the day, what happened was a major failure of the government. They've got records of people that run that port asking to get that stuff, get rid of that stuff.
Oh no.
For years.
Oh no.
And there, I don't know what kind of like side deals were going on behind the back, maybe trying to get that stuff into the right person so some other person's pocket could be lined.
Yeah.
That's going to take forever to like go through go through all that with a fine-tooth comb. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, corruption and laziness and stupidity. Because maybe the people at the port, they sent the letter and they're like, oh, not my problem anymore.
That's probably.
And then 7 years go on and they haven't done anything since, like one letter.
Yeah. It's probably what it was, man. It's probably that. I mean, I always think of, again, don't attribute to malice, which could be attributed to stupidity or incompetence. It's easy to look at this stuff and be like, man, who didn't, what was it? Something perchlorate. What was it? What was the
ammonium nitrate?
Ammonium nitrate. It's easy to go, man, why is all this ammonium nitrate there? It's a big city. And it's in hindsight and from the 30,000 foot view, you can go, okay, well, how come all this didn't happen? But it's like, what's today? Thursday? It's like, imagine you just said Thursday at work. It's just the middle of August. You're just waiting for Friday. You got a headache. You really hope you don't have COVID, but you're like, I just got to do this thing. And man, I've had diarrhea all day. And fuck, why do I have this in my inbox? Sign, not my problem anymore. I'm going to lunch. That's what it was. It was just that. It wasn't like, let's blow it. It was just some dude that was no different than you or I. Well, maybe not you. You're an explosives expert, but no different than myself.
Yeah. And, it's not unlike things I working 14 months in northern Iraq. I got really used to the kind of corruption that exists over there, because we were working with the government. Like the government was almost actively working against us. It was a little weird, because we'd be out there trying to clear the improvised landmines laid by ISIS in like villages and in people's houses that are preventing them from being able to move out of the refugee camps. And we've got the government saying, oh no, you need to clear this big swath of land in the middle of nowhere because the owner is this big rich guy. Well, it's like, no, then let him pay the for-profits to do it.
Yeah,
Like we're on charity money.
yeah,
Like that's not what this is for.
yeah.
And if we tell them no, then all of a sudden the security checkpoints along the highway between our compound and the minefields stop letting us through.
Oh, what a bunch of dirty motherfuckers.
Yeah. So
Fuck
then you've
that.
got to figure out a way to deal with that local guy, who his boss is telling him to stop us.
Oh,
So maybe we have to have a air conditioner fall out the back of our truck at his checkpoint. And then we're good for a week or, whatever it is. But it's, or, sometimes it can be smoothed over by just, stopping and like meeting with the commander of that checkpoint or of that area and having tea with him and making him feel like a big man. And then that smooths things over. But, but after dealing with that, like I can totally, like none of what happened there surprised me at all.
yeah. Some rich guy there's dipshit son was handed the reins to like an explosives disposal company, and he was
Yeah.
saving this for him. Hey, just give him this deal. He's a fuck up. Just yeah.
Yeah. And it was all this stuff was headed to Mozambique to a mining operation.
Okay.
So they might have been looking for some other mining company that they could sell it to.
Okay.
And then why was it there? Think about, it's a port city.
Yeah.
Think about every port city in America.
That's what I was gonna get to.
Yeah, like they're all right on the water with big high dollar properties right next to the ports. Even where I live in Cleveland now, like we have a small port on Lake Erie, but all the most expensive apartments are right along the port with warehouses underneath them because they're up on the hill overlooking. The apartments are up on the hill overlooking with the big port warehouses below. And
I mean,
but that's why you have that's why if you're handling explosives material, it needs to be done properly.
yeah.
Um,
I'm right here in Ocean City. It's the same thing. It's right on the
yeah.
property. Yeah, dude. In 2013 I interviewed at Miami for medical school, and I remember I went and met up with another guy from my college, UGA. We got together after and we just got hammered. But I remember we were in this, like, I went to his hotel and we were like looking at. But I vividly remember like standing there and we're like looking at these big floor to ceiling windows, and it's just like the tropical water, and like the girls are hot, and you're like, this place is too good. I'm not going to get in here. But I also remember I was like, man, this is kind of weird because right there, you could see all the massive cargo ships. And it was just like,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. I'm like, oh, that's where this, I guess I'm an idiot. I'm like, that's where all this wealth comes from that over 200 years builds up Miami, New York, Boston, LA. I interviewed at University of Southern California. I remember flying out and going back to Georgia. But again, I remember looking down and seeing all the ports, and it was like I never really thought about it because it's not like an airport. It's not this big, sexy. But it is a port, and that's immediately what I thought after seeing the Lebanon one. I was like, how much of this shit is just? Is there any way to know? Is it just sitting at any of these, or do we have, I hope, better standards?
Well, the big thing with most ports is the whole point is to move things through quickly.
Yeah.
Like anything sitting for more than a few hours is just in the way of the next thing.
Losing money.
Yeah. So, this was just one weird case where we had a ridiculous amount of explosives grade ammonium nitrate sitting for so long. And, it's probably a combination of how the volume that it was, the fact that it wasn't fertilizer grade, because there's not much difference, but like chemically, but you probably wouldn't want to just, especially in Lebanon, just let that stuff out on the open market there because it is explosives grade.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to be responsible for that stuff moving to wherever ISIS is, working at the moment. Because at the end of, ammonium nitrate based stuff is what I've been disarming, my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And having legit explosives grade stuff is a lot better than what that ISIS was working with. They were working with fertilizer grade stuff, and it took more effort to, make their bombs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's,
Is that what Timothy McVeigh used?
He did. So he used, I think it was like 12 barrels, and about a quarter of them were mixed ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, and the rest of them were just straight ammonium nitrate barrels.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
But yeah, so this is ammonium nitrate's definitely one of the most common, explosive chemicals used by volume.
It's. Hey, do you care if I go take a piss for a second?
You're good.
I always do this. I always run off and do this. Yeah,
I'll grab some water.
All right, awesome. For everyone listening, pretend there's elevator music. Did you already get your water? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What was the 93 bombing of the World Trade Center? What was that?
Oh.
Did they put it in one basement?
So that was probably ammonium nitrate. Let me. I mean, I would just be Google at the end of the day. I would be checking my records. I do have like actual legit reports on that.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
That would be dope as fuck. I mean, if you're on this podcast, you're on a list. I've had too many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're on this podcast or you listen to this podcast, you're on a list. So just join and wave to the NSA and whatever.
Yeah. I keep every copy of the Anarchist Cookbook I can get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
I keep every copy of the ISIS and the Al Qaeda magazines that get put out, digital magazines, because most of those have recipes in them, because it's good information. And I still collect that out of habit, even though I don't know if I'll be professionally back in that field again. It's hard to, it's hard to guess that. I took a big step away.
Yeah. Was there it's fine if you don't want to go into that. Is there a reason? Was there a specific reason? I mean, aside from the obvious.
So divorce number 2.
Okay.
And then the day I got back after, I started going through divorce number 2 while I was working for Minds Advisory Group. And then the day I got back, I got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much good now. I'm still dealing with the repercussions of the chemo. I lost a lot of muscle mass and gained a lot of body fat from the steroids I was on, and not being able to move for like 6 months. But yeah, I'm recovering. I'm kind of getting up there.
I mean, you look great, man. I mean, no homo. You look fucking great. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed it. So I mean, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting there.
Yeah, that's
trying to find
Yeah, the
all
World.
my reports on.
You're fine. Take your time. I got nothing doing. Yeah, the World Trade Center one. That was. Whenever I read about that initial '93 bombing, I mean, and it's not to make light of because there were people that died. Several hundred were injured, and obviously 8 years later
Yeah.
they succeeded. But all that being said, I mean, I can't help but sometimes almost laugh, not at what happened, but at what their plan was. We want to blow out the basement in one and have it collapse and fall into the other. I mean, that it sounds like a little kid's plan to steal cookies. Like, you're going to put me in a slingshot and you're going to shoot me on top of the fridge. And I'm going to, like, it almost, or do I not know anything about explosives? And was that actually a valid idea?
So, from the people I've talked to that did assess what happened, is they had a decent chance of doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So I'll eat my words. All
yeah.
right. I'll shut up.
Yeah. Because they that's why building 3 had to be eventually collapsed.
Yeah.
Was from the damage from the other 2 buildings.
I had on one of my gym partners from here, Tony Tedeschi, who is a firefighter on 9/11 at Ground Zero, lost several friends. And he talks about that. Yeah, pulling it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that was my understanding is that was them pulling out, and because it was too dangerous to be in. Well, they didn't destroy it. Yeah.
No. I mean, that's the pull out is, everyone's like, there it is, the CIA. Yeah. It's
yeah.
I asked Tony once about a conspiracy theory, and I thought he was about to punch me in the jugular, and I've shut up since then. But no, by no means was trying to make light of it, but it's insane. How did they? That's one thing I've always wondered, and again, I guess wave to the NSA is how if you truly wanted to terrorize the United States, and you're let's just say you're fucking ISIS, ISIL, whatever, Al Qaeda, Taliban. If you really wanted to do it, sure, you can do some big coup, if you will, 9/11, Pentagon, World Trade Center. But why wouldn't you just employ never know when, never know where, just car bombs? Not even Timothy McVeigh style, but just if you really want to terrorize a country, you'd be, are you in the middle of Ohio? Are you on Fifth Avenue? Are you middle of Atlanta? Are you on a beach? Where could there be a car bomb? I mean, if you really wanted to destroy a society, it would be the same psychological torture that shell shock had on soldiers in World War I. You just never know when a shell is going off.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's always surprised me for quite a while.
Yeah.
Because the ingredients are, and not just ISIS or whoever, it literally, religious extremists, right-wing extremists, left-wing extremists. It was in the 60s and 70s, there was more of that happening than now.
Weather Underground?
The Weather Underground's a big one. It was actually, there's the Cleveland Museum of Art just down the street from my house has one of those thinking men statues, the sculptures, like the thinker. And theirs was blown up by the Weather Underground. And I love it because it's still on display at the museum with the damage, and they don't address it. There's just the whole base of the sculpt of this bronze is mangled, and there's no plaque that explains what happens. It's like the same plaque since it was placed there.
It's
and the first time I saw it, I'm like, this was blown up. And I'm looking for something.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah. And it took me a little bit of Googling to figure out what happened. And I actually love that they're like, no, we're not even going to talk about it.
I love it. One, I thought you were just going to say they just kept it. I'm like, that's cool. That's like an art piece. But two, I part of me thinks that's almost badass. We won't bow to terrorism. It's just it's almost like keep calm and carry on. It's just carrying the milk through bombed out London. It's just happened to that statue? What are you talking about? Just fuck it. Keep, business as usual. Like stock market opened up like 9/12/01. Just like, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, it's keep rolling. I'm running. It's like you show up to like a bar or something with a black eye and you're bleeding. You just sit down and get a drink and no one says a word and just like, no one say anything. No one bring it up. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And there was a series of bombs in Austin in, I want to say 2017.
My brother
that they were placed on like sidewalks and trails with tripwires. And the first couple, some people got injured. I don't know whether or not anyone was killed, but I was living in Texas at the time in the Army, and we're like, oh shit, it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, because it was like 1 or 2 a week for like a month, I want to say, until they finally caught this guy. And I guess he had a device in his car when they were trying to pull him over, and he set it off, or it got set off. Like they think maybe he was trying to like set it up and throw it out the door at the cops, or I don't know if it was like really was a suicide attempt.
Sure.
But I can't find any good information about the results of that investigation, like who he was, why he was doing it.
I've never even heard of that. Yeah, that's 2017.
Yeah.
Whoa, your audio just like echoed on itself. That was weird.
Yeah.
But no, your audio is breaking up.
Still.
No, it sounds like you're talking through one of those like smokers things. Momentary technical difficulties. Still fucked up. Momentary technical difficulties.
I put myself on mute and put myself back on. Hear me now.
You sound like Darth Vader, man. You got like headphones? You take your time. You got nothing doing. Yeah, nothing doing. Getting headphones. Fix the Darth Vader voice. Everyone listening, this podcast is available on YouTube, DTube, BitChute, Vimeo, Anchor, Spotify, and hopefully soon banned video, BANNED.video, which is I guess another platform that I'm trying to get approved on. But looks like he has some headphones. We're gonna figure this bitch out. Excuse the momentary technical difficulties. I'm just gonna fill them out. Are we good? Let's see. Nope.
Audio device in the system.
I can. Do you want me to? No, wait. That'll fuck up. You should try leaving the call, and then I'll call you back, or try to rejoin.
All right. Yeah. It's still the same.
Fuck. Yeah. I'll end this, and I'll send you a new link.
Well, I might be able to. I should just be able to leave and re-get the link. You can try that.
So actually, yeah, you leave and just go to your email and click on it again. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody, but this podcast is still a work in progress, which, if you're listening, you should go to Patreon, donate $1 per episode, and improve the quality of this podcast. Is he back? Are we good? He's connecting.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Hey, we got it. Yay.
All right.
What were we?
I think we're gonna
car bomb.
up.
Oh, we did 2017, Austin.
Yeah.
Austin 2017 bombings. 2017 bombings.
It might have been 2016. Austin serial bombings. Oh, 2018.
2018. Damn, that was 2 years ago. I had never. Between March 2nd and March 22nd. Wasn't there a bomb in a truck? Wasn't there a bomb in New York? Was that 2017? Do you remember that one that went off? It was like I don't think anyone was injured. Do you remember that?
Are you talking about the Times Square guy that like that was like 10 years ago.
No, not that guy. That guy got caught. I think he's in ADX Florence. That's Supermax.
Yeah.
No. There was one, I think it was right after Trump was elected. I want to say it was 2016, maybe 2017. It wasn't that big. I remember there was just a lot of video of like, you could almost tell it wasn't that big because it went off and there's like CCTVs of people like on the sidewalk, just like, what was that? But like not much. It was, let's start with, Manhattan.
Was it like a homicide bombing or was it like a gas explosion?
I don't remember. It was that's how insignificant it was. Is it's not even registering. 2016 New York and New Jersey bombings. September 17th to 19th, 2016. I'm on Wikipedia. It just says New York City 2016.
Okay.
September 17th through the 19th, 2016. 3 bombs exploded and were found in and several unexploded were found in the New York metropolitan area. 31 injured, no fatalities. Yeah, I think one of them was in a dumpster. Yeah, there was one in Manhattan. Seaside, there's one in Seaside, Chelsea, Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah. The Manhattan
vaguely familiar.
Weapons, pressure cooker with pipe bombs, 0 deaths. Perpetrators, Aman Kar Rahmini. Okay. Rahmini was not part of a terrorist group, but his actions were believed to have been influenced by the extremist Islamic ideology espoused by Al-Qaeda. 2018, he was sentenced to a mandatory life sentence without parole. Makes sense. Yeah, that one was. Let's see. That one was in a dumpster. And then there was one which I think was like outside of a marathon. It wasn't the Boston bombing. It wasn't that. I remember that clearly. This was like, again, it was part. I think it was part of the string of bombings. It was like a pipe bomb in a I think it was like a trash can or some shit. I remember it went off, but nothing really happened. I think we lost Will again. I think we lost Will. Man, my internet's really fucking up. Oh no. Yo.
Okay, do I got you now?
Yeah, again, that was me. My internet, like I said before the podcast, my internet was fucking up, and so I was on it via my phone network, but now I just said my phone's out of data, so god damn it, is it fucking up again? This is infuriating. Will?